That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, guys, I was talking to a couple of y'all in our Discord chat about what I should be making with the next video. And a lot of people wanted me to make a video where I talked about unsustainable shooting percentages, where I talked about players that are either shooting over their head or are running extremely cold. And we should expect them to bounce back a little bit closer to their career averages as the season progresses, because I want to remind everyone. I know that it seems like we have been going through this fantasy basketball season for a while now, but it just now started. I mean, we have so much ahead of us. We are going to see a lot of these players that stood out in the first month of the season really not necessarily continue that type of production, just with the way that some players can start hot. Some players take a little bit of time, like a Luka Doncic. But regardless, thank y'all so much for coming to the video. Thank y'all so much for dropping that like, subscribing to the channel, leaving that comment. It helps us out a ton. And our next video is going to be by Fantasy News and Brews, and they are looking for your questions to go through and answer. So please, guys, go down to the comment section, and if y'all have any fantasy basketball questions, shoot them their way. Okay, so for the first half of the video, let's go through and let's talk about some players that are shooting at way too high of a rate, where yes, I mean, great, they've been able to carry you through your first few matchups this season, but it's not something that we should be expecting to maintain as the season progresses. And the first player that we are going to talk about here is going to be Chris Middleton. Now, Chris Middleton is a great career shooter, closing in on almost 40% from three-point line. But what the problem is he is shooting way over his head right now. Right now, he has put up 53 threes so far this season, and he's made 29 of them, which is good for 53% of those shots. Now, if we just do some simple math here, if we just expect that the regression is going to hit him, maybe this upcoming month, instead of averaging 53% of his 3 points made, he then dips down a little bit to just say, I want to say 38. That's going to be a significant impact in terms of what he's providing for you, not only in point leagues, but also category leagues, where he's been that elite producer for the 3-point category so far. And it's something that we are going to be expecting him to take a step back on, but he should still be above the league average quite confidently because he's Middleton. And here I'll say, if you can go out there and try to sell him high, I mean, he is decent in stuffing some of the other statistics as rebounds and assists, averaging close to 6 in both of those categories. But here with Chris Middleton, I think that we may just want to go through and see what we can get while we can. Okay, so now our next player I know has been getting talked about a decent amount on some fantasy basketball podcasts, and I really have no interest, and this is going to be Seth Curry. Okay, right now, guys, Seth Curry has put up 42 threes, and he's made 25 of them. I mean, ridiculous. He's almost made 60% of his three-pointers so far this season. It's very similar to some of the other players that you see on the Philadelphia 76ers with how ridiculous they are in terms of that efficiency from three. Mainly, in my opinion, it's been just the overall offense going up against some of the worst rotations in the NBA so far this season. I think a lot of people are getting way too excited about this Sixers team very early on. I mean, if we look at his career averages, yes, very similar to a Chris Middleton. He's a fantastic three-point shooter. I mean, he tends to shoot about 44% from the field, which is far above average. But when you're talking about a player shooting close to 60% from three, we just understand that that is not going to maintain. And if you look at the other categories that he's giving you, I mean, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 17 points a game, and those 17 points are off ridiculous efficiency. So I'll say with Seth Curry, I mean, if you're just playing in a straight up points league, he's definitely a player that I'd like to explore my trade options with. If you're playing in a category league, maybe he's a little bit more intriguing based on the efficiency that he gives you in the field goal and the free throw category. But here, another player that we just have to expect to really regress as the season goes on. Now, our next guy we are going to talk about is someone that I love. Y'all know that I was a major San Antonio Spurs fan growing up. And here we're going to talk about my man, Patty Mills. I mean, right now shooting 55% from three. He's put up 43 shots, made 24 of those three-pointers. You just look at his career average, closing in on about 38, 39%. And then you look at what else he is giving you in terms of rebounds, assists, both of them being close to a 2 average. Really here with Patty Mills, I know a lot of people are wanting to pick him up. I know a lot of people are wanting to talk about possibly playing him. And in reality, I don't think that he's a player that we should be relying on, because as soon as that three-point percentage dips, he's someone that I really don't have that much interest in. All right, so now our next player has been deemed a full-on breakout by a ton of people, but I want to hesitate, y'all. I mean, I want, yes, to go out there and explore trade options, and this is going to be Colin Sexton. Okay, with Colin Sexton, very similar to all these other players. I mean, yeah, a decent career three-point shooter, closing in on 39%. But right now, he's shooting over 50% from three. Very similar to these other players. The majority of value he has brought to your fantasy lineup has been in the point category, where he's averaging 25 points a game right now off of that ridiculous three-point efficiency. But if you look at the other categories, I mean, he's giving you 2 rebounds. He's giving you 3.5 assists. I mean, Colin Sexton is a scoring first player, and generally in fantasy, I like to be avoiding those players. I would rather be going after the guys that are going to stuff the stat sheet on every other category, because they tend to be undervalued if they are not putting up a ton of points. So Colin Sexton is the exact opposite here. This is why I told us to avoid Devin Booker. This is why I told us to avoid Donovan Mitchell in our fantasy basketball drafts this season. And here, I think with Colin Sexton, it's the same reason we should be selling him high. All right, so now our next player is definitely the most exciting player on this list, and this is going to be Paul George. Okay, so the narrative around Paul George has completely changed this season from where he was seen as the most overvalued player in the NBA a year ago, where now people are looking at him in his 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists a game going, you know what? Paul George, I mean, he is what he is. He's an all-star. He's no superstar. He's not a LeBron James. He's not a Kawhi Leonard. He's not in that category of player, but he's still someone that is going to provide us a significant amount of value in fantasy. And here, I just want to caution everyone, very similar to what I've been doing with these other players. I mean, Paul George has made a ridiculous amount of threes. Not only is his efficiency much higher than one would expect, but he's put up 67 three-point shots already this season. And he has the three-point percentage closing in on 50%, with him making 32 of those threes. And if you look at his career number, it's under 40. So here, Paul George, very similar, right? He's a decent shooter. I mean, he can shoot the ball. But guys, please understand that with some of these players, I mean, with all these players, they're not going to be able to maintain this incredibly high rate. They're going to fall back a little bit. And with Paul George, if you can sell him in that tier of maybe a Kawhi Leonard, obviously you're going to have to add something small on top of that. But if you can go out there and try to move him for a cornerstone asset, I think that would make a ton of sense. Okay, so now our next player is one of the most exciting rookies in the NBA right now, Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, coming out here and doing so much on the court for the Sacramento Kings. Right now, he is averaging 48% from three. He has made 13 off of 27 shots. Now, obviously, we don't have his career numbers at the NBA level just yet, but I think this is the case of a very small sample. Now, Tyrese Halliburton is someone that I'm excited about if he can begin to increase his usage in that rotation. But for now, I think that if someone's going to be overpaying for him, we would be willing to sell. Okay, well, that's enough of me just being completely negative. That's enough of me just crapping on all those guys. Let's change it over and let's talk about some players that should start seeing more threes sunk. They should start seeing their field goal percentage slightly go up as the season progresses, based on them just starting a little bit colder this season. And let's start it with someone that has completely turned his season around, it seems, but the three-point shots are still not falling. And this is going to be Luka. Okay, guys, I know Luka has looked unreal, and there's pretty much no chance that you'd be able to trade for him in your league. But right now, I mean, he is shooting 20% from three. And I know Luka is not necessarily a fantastic three-point shooter. I know he likes to shoot off the dribble. We don't necessarily like to see that if we're going to be expecting high percentage. But with Luka, I mean, we know the volume is going to be there. I mean, he is going to continue to take those off the dribble step back threes. And yes, we don't necessarily need to see a very high percentage of those going in because the volume is going to be so high. But if we look at that volume and we just change what he's been able to do so far in 2020 to his career average of just over 30% from three, That is a significant difference. That's a significant difference in his points scored per game. That's a significant difference in his three-pointers made per game and what you'd be expecting from this overall Dallas Mavericks offense. So here with Luka, I know. I mean, he has looked so good, but I think he can get better. It's crazy to say, but I just want to remind everyone. I mean, this is a player that is ridiculously young. I mean, he should continue to play himself into shape. He should continue to develop as a shooter. All right, so now our next player is going to be Zach LaVine. I'm going to keep this very short as we are running out of time. But right now, Zach LaVine is shooting under 30% from three-point land, and he has a career average close to 40%. So I know Zach LaVine, very similar to Luka. I mean, he's been impressive. He's been providing you a ton of value, and we should be excited about him. But I think that he can take his game up to the next level. And that's why I think that Zach LaVine could be an intriguing buy low candidate, even if you're not necessarily buying him low. I mean, I think you'll be buying him low compared to where his value will be in a month. Okay, so now our next player is going to be Christian Wood, keeping this very short, shooting 27% from three right now, has a career average a little bit closer to 40%. Not a fantastic three-point shooter by any means, but definitely much better than what he has showed so far. Our next player is going to be Karis LeVert, currently averaging 25% from three, but his career average is up closer to 35%. And guys, this makes a difference. I mean, these players are going to regress. These players are going to start sinking more of their shots. We look at a Shake Milton, currently averaging 27% from three. His career is close to 40. Keep these players in mind. If you want to go out there and try to target someone, try to target these players, knowing that if they start seeing some more of their shots fall, they can have significantly more value than they do right now. Well, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And yeah, that's it. I hope I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.